I'm not a permanent fixture in most of their practices that I work with. It's really, a short term to help them to get better for sure. Yeah.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Growth and Scaling Podcast. I'm your host, Todd Westra, and today's guest is going to inspire you because he brings a very specialized approach to what he does, and he's been able to not only grow his own business, but grow and scale hundreds of other businesses while he's doing it. I love people like this who are not only amazing at building themselves, but are specialized and focused on the building and growth of people in a specific industry. This is not something that's super normal, but I love the fact that he is so niche at what he does that it has allowed him to grow and scale at a pace unlike most people who are very broad in what they do. He's a marketer. He's someone who's able to build and design systems of implementation for a very specific niche. Yes, the dental niche. And he is a master at building systems and processes that build and grow other dental practices. I love it. He's been in the dental game for a while. He's able to produce and attract new clients for these people, as well as track their systems and processes within the dental practice, which, as we all know, even the best dentists sometimes aren't the best businessmen. And so this business has a home. It has a place. It has a huge marketplace, and he's able to grow huge because of the mass complexities that face dentists in trying to run their practices. So if you're someone who's very specialized in a niche, who's very, very keen at servicing one type of business, this is the episode for you. I love this episode because I feel like sometimes I'm a little too broad and I need to niche down just like he has. Great story, fascinating growth. I can't wait for you to hear about it. Please leave comments in the notes below. If you're watching this on YouTube or listening on Spotify, you can leave notes below. Let me know what you would have asked. Are there things that you wish I would have done differently in this episode that may have brought a little more value to you? Our goal is to help you grow and scale your business. We can only do that if we're giving you the right content. So like, share, subscribe. Let us know what we can be doing different to build and grow this network of amazing business founders on the Growth and Scaling Podcast. We'll catch up with you at the end of this interview. Enjoy. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Growth and Scaling Podcast. I'm excited for today's guest because he brings an absolutely different perspective on growth and scaling, having grown and scaled for a company and then growing and scaling his own company now. It's exciting and it's cool. Greg, tell us who you are and who do you serve with your business?
Thanks so much, Todd. Appreciate you having me on. I'm really excited to be here today. So what I do is I work with full arch dentists and I help them with improving profitability, helping them with their cash flows. So the fixed full arch game. So if those that aren't familiar, teeth in a day, it's called sometimes, the all on four technique. Clear Choice is the one in the industry that really, does all the advertising, right? You see them, the guys or the gals that are walking and biting into an apple or walking along the sidewalk, that emotional connection. Yeah, so I work with them. Saddle up alongside the practices, help them from the time the phone rings, so from the lead call all the way through the treatment planning coordinators, and helping them guide the patients through their journey of saying yes to this fantastic, really life-altering treatment. I'm getting a brand new smile. That's what I do.
It is a very life-altering treatment, and it's a very cool business model to be involved in. How in the world did you get into this, and who are your favorite clients to work with? Are they normal family practice? Are they people that just specialize in these things? Who are you helping really?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I've been in dental for 16 years now, and in 2013, as part of the Strawman Group, they launched the Neodent brand into the marketplace, and it really specialized in this thing, in full arch. And so since it was a special kind of niche of that particular implant brand, that's where we gravitated towards. Right. And so it wasn't just like with the big DSO, which is the big group practices, but it was with these individual clinics and with GPs that wanted to get into this, and some specialists, but mostly with the general practitioners that were doing this practice along with regular dentistry, with the cleanings and the fillings and everything else. And so I took the approach of really to help them every part of their practice. So if they needed like patient financing, I would be at dental shows and, who has patient financing, and talk to other people. So really that holistic, comprehensive approach, and really help them to grow their business, and did that with teams that I was building for them for many, many years. And that's really how I fell into it, I guess, into the full arch business, and really now just doing it on my own, for sure. Yeah.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, most dentists that I know are not the, how do we say, savvy businessmen that they like to think that they might possibly be.
Well,
am I accurate there?
Yeah, I think part of it is, and I don't want to generalize, because I know a lot of the dental schools talk about like teaching them the business side of dentistry and the business.
Right.
But I think that, if you talk to any dentists that are coming out of dental school, it's, this much of the education that they get is the business side of dentistry. That's why you have so many of these groups that come up. And that's why the DSO space is growing at such a vast pace, right? Because they're taking over that side, and the clinicians stick to the clinical side. And I know there's some carryover that might be a little controversial to say, but it is what it is. It's what's happening. And so for me to be able to help them and to really look at the business side of dentistry, and it's a whole part of the industry that's been growing up to help them. My goal is to help them get better. My goal in working with these practices is to work myself out of a job. I teach them how to do better. I teach them how to walk patients through the journey better, to answer the phones better, to give them playbooks, to help them. And then I should be removed. I mean, as things change over the course of a couple of years, or, they add more practices, or whatever the case may be, they scale and grow, then perhaps come in for, a tune-up, just like you would your car. But, I'm not a permanent fixture in most of their practices that I work with. It's really, a short term to help them to get better, for sure. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. All right. So now we know who you are and what you do. Tell us about your business journey. I mean, you've kind of gone through this experience now, helping a massive nationwide brand grow and scale and kind of penetrate the marketplace with their services. And now you're kind of off doing your own thing. Tell us about how that's evolved and what are the things you like most about it?
Yeah. So the thing that I like most about it is the fact that it's never the same any day, right? Being your own boss, it's really good because you're your own boss, but it can be really challenging too, because it shows all the warts and the scrapes and all of that, but I really love that every day it's something new. One of my favorite things is really finding strategic partners and collaborating and bringing them into the mix and learning who to work with, and the learning process. I mean, just simply the learning process. Cool. I have always, for my entire career, the vast majority, worked for somebody else and fairly structured. Now, there was a startup that was a part of my first dental journey. I was the 5th employee of a company. It scaled very largely and then sold off. That was a whole different experience. But to have my own business, to start my own thing, it's a different type of journey. So it's learning all the aspects of that side of the business. And I have to say, there's tons of people who are out there that if you're open, and, I talk about in my podcast, right, being vulnerable, there are so many people that are out there willing to help you. There's a few people that don't give the best advice, but the vast majority are willing to help. And I think that's just so critical, is to be open to learning and the learning process. That's really, it's never the same day twice, let alone the same hour twice. And that's the best part of being my own boss. I love it. Yeah, for sure.
Well, and you brought up a couple of really interesting things there. First of all, you said that you bring in a lot of people to help you perform the functions that you try and do for your clients. Meaning, in other words, you have a network of other consultants who specialize in things. How do you utilize these people that may not be your full-time employees, but maybe people who are they add value to your clients, and so you bring them in? How does that all work in your business?
Yeah, so for my business, I kind of look at it as I am the quarterback, if you will. But I certainly, if I throw the ball, I can't catch it.
Right.
If I hand it up, well, I guess if you look at the football analogy, certainly some of the quarterbacks these days do run the ball as well.
Right.
And every once in a while I will.
Some of them can do it.
But, handing the ball off and having an offensive line that's going to block for me really well. And, the coach that's calling the play, sometimes I'll call an audible, but really just having all that network of people that specialize. I talk about this in full arch practices, right? People should specialize in what they're really good at and get really good at one thing. knowing what everybody else is doing, right? So the team gets better for sure, but specialize in what you do really, really well. And just like in a dental practice, even if there's, 2, 3, 4, 5 offices, right? Being able to outsource, to a marketing company and let them do what they do best, or, to call centers, right? Until you get to that point of max capacity where you can bring an internal, and maybe even then debate, to be able to allow people to specialize in what they do. You get better performance from everybody. And that's the same for me. I bring in people who specialize, because I can do a whole lot of things pretty well, and I can set the scaffolding. But when it comes to painting the building and taping the frame and whatnot, there's people that do that better than I do necessarily. And so I'll bring them in, especially when scope of work gets very large, so that I can deliver on the deadlines, the best possible work product, and make sure that it gets out there, so the clients are ultimately the happiest, for sure.
Hey there, friends. Todd Westra here. I want to thank you so much for listening to this episode, but I also want to take just a few seconds to let you know about a project that we've been putting together for the last several months, and we're finally launching it, called the Captain's Council. You see, as a CEO or operator of a business, it can feel like you get stuck in your own head a lot of the time. You get challenges that you don't know how to resolve. You get people causing problems in your leadership team that you don't know how to resolve, and it's so hard to overcome those things by yourself. You don't have to anymore. Join the Captain's Council. Captain's Council is a group of other CEOs and operators and owners of businesses where we come together once a month for several hours to discuss the biggest challenges you're facing. You express to the council of 8 to 10 people about what's going on. Where do you feel stuck? And these other people are in the same boat as you. They're running and operating their own businesses. They're your peers. They help you kind of dissect what's happening and help you see things that you may not have seen all by yourself. If you don't have a good, strong network of people around you, come join the Captain's Council. This is going to be something that will change the way you run your business and open your eyes to opportunities that you have never seen without the help of your peer group. Come check it out, captainscouncil.com. I love it. So now I'm going to take the step back just a little bit, because I love what you're saying. I absolutely love it, because a lot of people in their growth and scaling journeys feel like they need to do it all internally. They gotta have this specialized person on their team. They gotta have this other specialized person on their team, and they start to grow a very bloated overhead that they don't need all the time. How have you been able to find success in just having that network of people that you're able to just call on during the times when you need them, and not have them be a permanent fixture in your business?
Well, I don't behoove anyone a different model, right? Because it certainly is a model that's been successful for many people. For myself, if you do bring somebody in full time and then you're vetting them through the process, once they're in, you can certainly have more control over the messaging and whatnot. When you 1099 somebody in, or you just contract somebody, you ask for the end product, but you can't really talk about the process about how it comes about. Right? You're just looking for end results. So you have to be laser focused on what it is you're looking for as an end product. So you have to have, it's a different set of skills, and it's a different way of putting together. And then you ultimately don't ever know. I just had a deadline that came up that was very, short time frame, short deadline. And there was some of the people that are usually in my well that weren't available and didn't have the time. So who did it fall on? Right here, right? So I had to clear the whole I felt like I was taking the desk and sliding everything off virtually, and had to put everything on hold. Right. And I had to hunker down. It was a big client. They asked for something that they needed in short order, so I had to perform. So that's one of the fallbacks. If I had people I brought internally, I could certainly ask them to step up, and they would have been able to do it more than likely.
Their desks off.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just a different model than what some others do. But that being laser focused is critically important for what the end product is going to look like. But you can also hold people to standard, and that's going through a number of individuals and saying, you're like-minded. We share the same mindset and the same philosophy of abundance. And if they like working for you, you almost have to work harder, because you have to sell your concepts, and it has to match. True. And they want to be able to contract with you time and time again to be able to create great work products.
I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
I really like what you said there, and that's something that I've been able to do successfully in my current business model. Very similar. I bring in a lot of outside consultants who come in and fill holes fractionally for some of my clients in a way that works for them. But when we don't have that client that needs them, I'm not worried about their overhead. They've got other things to do on the side. They got other things. I don't have to worry about feeding their family all the time. But it's great to have their specialized knowledge and influence on my customers. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. How have you found, like, in your own growth and scaling journey, are there parts along the way that you feel like have been, I don't know, your favorite or highlights of things that have been like just critical decisions that you've made that have helped you kind of grow and develop what your model actually is right now?
Yes, I think part of it has been, for me, I like everything initially. And so staying, I've talked about being focused, it's maybe I should be doing that. No, maybe I should be doing that. You see something, maybe I should be doing that. And, I don't know. Maybe it's because everything looks good until you peel back the layers and you're like, ooh, that would take I don't know if I want to do that type of thing. And so
I don't want to do that part.
Yeah, so staying really focused and on my niche and specialized, especially because I am very niche in what I do. And then the other piece is, because I do this lane and then the rest of the business for a lot of these general practitioners, or even if it's specialists, everything that's being done all in one house, there's a big chunk of business as well, revenue cycle management and insurance business and hygiene and clear aligners. And I mean, I go on and on. That's a big chunk of business. So bringing others in to work on that aspect of the business, because once I become a trusted advisor in a practice, inevitably they're saying, well, what about the rest of my business? And so to bring in a trusted partner there to make sure that the philosophies of coaching and training with the team are in alignment, because you don't want to confuse message.
I love it.
That's a huge piece of it too. And so, it's constantly exploring what that looks like and finding like-minded people. And I know I shared that already, but that's a big chunk of it. So there's not conflict with messaging and confusing, because it's challenging enough for teams 100%. To adopt a new system, right? And a new philosophy. And so I try to keep it, that KISS method, right? To keep it stupid simple, because I need things that are simple. And using acronyms and, these mnemonics that you can teach and that people pick up on. There's so many things that are changing and so fast, right? We live in an Amazon Prime world. I want it now. And, shiny keys, and there it goes. To keep them focused on just some simple basic stuff is really important. And so having that collaborative mindset of bringing others into the picture, that's been super important to be for my business and making sure that it's consistent.
I love it. Well, what are some things that you see as you try to help these other dental practices grow and develop their systems and processes? And maybe this also goes into your own business as well, but what do you see are some real common deficiencies or real common challenges that people are facing in their growth journey?
Yeah, so in dental practices specifically, one of the things that I see, is they want more, right? So especially in the fixed arch, it's like, well, if I want to grow, I'll just pour more money into marketing. When, that same store growth is critically important. If they can just shore up some of their systems, don't put more money into a bad system. Let's work on the system, and your profitability will get better, your cash flow will get better, your EBITDA, your bottom line, everything's going to get better. Invest a little bit right here in your team and in your system. Take a good look at that and understand that first. Then once you got that system down, then you can start investing a little bit more over here. But instead of, this big ticket item, or maybe I'll add clear aligners, or I'll add this. But if you're not answering the phone, or you're not answering it well, or once they come in the door, you're not closing cases consistently, or you don't have the right financing companies in place, or you don't know how to fill in the blank, right, Todd? Fill in the blank with any of those. Shore up. Have your flagship location, have your main location solid. Then go look at buying another practice or expanding another practice, right? Because that's your, this is your franchise practice that you're going to model everything after. Get that set, and most do, and most understand that concept, but really taking a good look and an audit survey of that main practice and set that playbook and then you can share it with all the
Yep.
others, and at least you know what your baseline expectation is. And then it can be taught. And because what happens, and I'll just end the note with this, what happens often, especially when they're growing and scaling, right? They're becoming a small DSO or
Yep.
emerging DSO, emerging group, is that, there'll be people who are really good at like being an office manager or whatever they are. And then a number of practices will be added
Right.
and they'll become a regional manager. Well, if you have the systems in place, they can be much more successful in the next role. And that's what's critically important for
Right.
their own growth
Right.
and scaling, which I think is critically important. So giving them the right tools for sure.
I love it. I think I can totally get on board with that. I think most businesses, whether it's dental or otherwise, they deal with the same issues. It's systems, processes, tools. How are you trying to implement what you're trying to do? And if you're not implementing very good, don't put the money into more marketing. To your point, I mean, you don't want to feed a bad system where there's a giant hole in the lead flow or whatever.
Don't throw good money at bad.
Right. So I love this. Tell me where people can find you. And before we even get there, I love to ask people, as they grow and scale the business, almost every founder has somebody in their circle who they look at as some kind of an inspiration, who kind of keeps them motivated to keep on going. Who is your shout out today that you'd like to share with us on the show?
Yeah, so mine, a good friend of mine, his name's Bill Benjaminson. I met him when I started at Neodent under the Strawman Group, and he and I have been back and forth and front and back, and Bill Benjaminson's a good friend of mine, just solid, salt of the earth kind of guy, and he's amazing. Whenever I need some grounding or an uplift, I always reach out to him. He's a great guy.
That's so awesome. And where do people get a hold of you if they want to learn more about what you're doing? How you do it? Are you on social media? Where are you at?
Yeah, so great way to find me. So you can, on Instagram, it's just my name, Greg Essenmacher, but a better way to find me would be at my website. So it's at Dental Consult, the number 4 and the letter U. So dentalconsult4u.com. And there you can learn a little bit more about me, what I do, and you can just click on the link there and do.
Perfect.
It says a 30-minute free consultation. Just set up a chat. Let's just have a conversation about where you're at with your business and what you're looking for. And just like this, I like to have chats. And you can link to my podcast there too, The Tooth Sleuth. It's all about the business side of dentistry, since we talked about that earlier, the business side of dentistry, and just some fun guests on there. Cool. Conversation just like you and I are having here, Todd.
I think it's so good that you're doing that. It's just perfect. So before we leave, what is some last bits of advice you have for entrepreneurs out there looking to grow and scale?
For me, in business, if you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, I know this is the growth and scaling side of it, but I'm sure you have listening audience that are like thinking about, I don't know if I could, just get your feet wet. Just try it. You never know until you try it, and you can always go back to being an employee somewhere.
So true.
Just give it a shot, right? Rip off the Band-Aid and do it, because I can tell you that I'm so grateful that I did. So thank you so much, Ty. I really appreciate you having me on today.
I sure appreciate you being here, man. Thanks so much.
You got it, man. Thanks.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that interview. I loved hearing about the growth that he was able to produce in his own business while helping other people build and grow their practices. I think that it's such a win-win to hear about these types of situations. Probably a win-win-win, because you really are building a better customer experience for the dental office by building and growing systems that work for them, that are better for their clients. We all know that going to the dentist can be a pain in the neck. Well, it's a pain in the mouth. But as we work with a dentist who actually knows how to have a process that makes it easier for us to do what needs to be done there, we have a better experience, which makes us more loyal to the dentist. The dentist has this amazing growth opportunity in building their practice by offering awesome customer service, and people like Greg are able to grow his business by helping those dentists. If you're in a niche like this, I want to know, what niche are you in? Who do you help grow their business? I'd love to hear about it. Please share in the comments below. And as always, like, share, subscribe. Help us understand what made this episode awesome for you. We want to build more episodes that are relevant to you and your growth experience. So let us know what we can do to build and grow our business around yours. for those of you who are looking for community, people like Greg grow their business because they are involved in a community of people like him. If you're looking for connection between other founders and want to know what they're doing to build and sustain their growth, you should consider joining a community like the Captain's Council. That's right, the Captain's Council is sponsoring this episode because we believe that every founder and operator of a business needs to have support from other founders and other operators. It is the best way to find solutions for some of the biggest problems you face in growing and scaling your business. So we appreciate you looking into the Captain's Council today and find out how you can gain connection with an immediate group of other founders and operators who are running businesses just like yours. The act of running a business is something that is consistent across almost all industries. So if you're looking for connection, you're looking for answers, you're looking for people to inspire you and your growth, look no further than captainscouncil.com. Check it out today. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Growth and Scaling Podcast.